The idea here is I'm started bringing everyone visibility from their hard work, what I got all these years. So if anyone interested to participate this community effort also, and in long term, the cancer NGO vision, please feel free to reach out to me. You no need to have a huge skill set. You just have whatever you know from your small, that's more than enough. Of course, many of you know my LinkedIn. So you can search Vijay Balan Balakrishnan in LinkedIn. And the person who also joined here, Tenarasu. So he's also working as an architect. So he is going to propose more solution architecture review in coming days towards enterprise architecture journey. And I would like to share few things. So there are page I have created to make sure we not missed any events from user point of view. So if you not following this page, you can keep follow so that even if you forget, there will be a reminders automatically will come. So the page is going to be, we need to propose all our events, all our communication through this page. But there is a technical group also. People asked why we need two. This technical group, nowadays, many people don't understand the LinkedIn visibility. So in this technical group, you can share whatever files or documents or any exam related information or any good training links, or so you can share anything. Even you can ask all your use case queries, or you can ask all your day-to-day issues, or you can also start answer. So the more you participate, the more networking you can create. That is a major idea. I have created the technical group. So I started from yesterday, couple of important documents and trainings to post in this group. So if you keep touch with this page for getting to know what is happening, and you can also participate so that your profile visibility will be more. So this is a major idea I created. And also I am just setting up the newsletter so that you can get a consolidated 15 days all information in your mailbox. Okay, let's go inside. So today, Tenarasu is going to present Azure Native Migration discussion. So I started this 11 years back, but officially registered on 2015. Initially, I started as a training and fundraising, but slowly now I'm doing a lot of things inside to help this community. About the Tenarasu, he is almost having a quite vast experience in cloud and on-prem platform. He is now doing extensive solution architect related deliverables, and he is going to own many upcoming solution architecture and also consulting base. So you can also reach out to him for any queries or any use case. I would suggest to submit it in the LinkedIn Cloudnloud technical group, so that even if he is busy, someone can reply with detail, with example, with scenarios. So I will hand over to Tenarasu. Probably I can give the access. Yeah, you can take over, Tenarasu.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. Thanks for the opportunity. And good morning, everyone. On let me share my screen. Good morning, everyone. Nowadays, in all our companies, we are expected to do some migrations from on-premises environment to the cloud. It can be Azure or it can be AWS. So now today I'm going to talk about Azure native migration tools. When I'm going to talk about migration, first of all, we should understand our on-premises environment. So like how my on-premises environment is looking and what are the workloads and applications, databases I am going to migrate. So for doing all these things, right, first of all, we need to understand the client environment. So that is called assessment. So when we are going to do the assessment, if you are going to do it manually, right, there will be a lot of human errors might come. End of the day, we may lose some data, like we will be keeping some files, and if we miss one file, there will be a lot of issues will come. So in Azure, they have started providing their native migration solutions. Within that solution, they included some assessment tools also. So what those tools will do is, it will start analyze our source environment. When I'm saying the source environment, it can be your on-premises or it can be your another cloud environment. It can be anything. So Azure is providing two set of native migration tools. One is Azure Migrate. That's a tool most of the friends are using right now. And there is a second tool called Azure Site Recovery. Actually, these two tools, right, it works very closely, but the real use case is something different between these two tools. I will explain those things in a later point. Let me talk about Azure Migrate first. In Azure Migrate, right, we have all these options. Like when I said assess the client environment, discover, all these options are available in Azure Migrate. So when we are going to use Azure Migrate from Azure to do the migration of our client environment, it will do the discover. When I'm saying discover, it will understand the client environment. It will collect all the information, and it will do the assess, like it will categorize the applications and creating a dependency chart and network parameters. All those things it will collect. And then it will provide the proper target compute and disk related information also. When we are, before all these things will happen before the migration starts. The things, whatever I am talking, it's all about before the migration. This is the pre-migration steps, I could say. So in the target, how the VMs should go with what kind of compute, with what size of hard disk, those things, it will provide some recommendations. It's up to us and as per the customer's requirement, whether are we going to use the same requirement recommendation provided by this tool, or are we going to make some changes. So it's up to our decision making after this discovery process. So these are all the major process in Azure Migrate tool. Like when I don't want to read about all these things, it will be published in our LinkedIn portal so that we can go through. If any queries on this part, right, like discover, assess, and defining the target and migration, Vijay, can they ask these questions in the later, or now itself I can ask if the people wants to discuss anything? Hello, Vijay. Am I audible? Okay, thanks, Dilip. Thank you. Okay, the questionnaire sessions we can have it in the later stage.
I'll open the QA session at the end.
Okay.
Probably we can discuss in detail
Yep.
So you in the meantime, everyone note down all your queries, so it will be easy for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. So in Azure Migrate, right? The previous slide, it was telling what are all the services Azure Migrate provides. In this slide, what is Azure Migrate and what it can do? See, Azure Migrate is a unified portal, unified migration portal. Within that portal itself, you will get discover option and migrate options, assessment, all these options. So by using Azure Migrate, we can migrate our servers, databases, web applications. When I'm saying databases, web applications, that will not be done by the regular Azure Migrate tool. There are some different tools which are going to come in the upcoming slides. Like this is the tools and what is their capability. I have put down the table over here. Like the first tool is Azure Migrate. It will do the discovery and assessment. Like as I said in the initial stage, it can be your VMware, or it can be your physical server of your client environment, or it can be a Hyper-V environment, which you are planning to migrate. So by using Azure Migrate, we can do the discovery and assessment by using Azure Migrate. The second tool is called Azure Migrate Server Migration. So this tool, based on the information, whatever we are collecting from the previous tool, the discovery and assessment tool, right? By using that one, we can select the servers, whatever we are planning to migrate from on-premises to our Azure cloud. So the second tool is for completely server-based migration. It can be Linux or Windows-based migration. The third tool is called Data Migration Assistant. This tool will assess all our on-premises SQL servers. As of now, and they are providing the support only for the SQL services, and it will do the assessment, like when after the migration there will be any issues, or how, if any issues coming, how we can mitigate those things. So this tool especially will provide a path to migrate our databases from on-premises to Azure cloud. This is the best service which Azure is providing, Azure Database Migration Service. So this tool will take the information from the previous tool, which I am talking about, the Data Migration Assistant, right? From this tool, it will take the information and it will do the database migration. Like it can be running, like if we can build a new VM in Azure, and we can start the database migration from on-premises to that SQL server, like the complete database migration. Else, if you want to use the SQL managed database instance, like from the on-premises to Azure directly, I don't want to have any VM separately. I just need to migrate only the database. So that is possible by using Azure Database Migration Service. The next tool is Mover. Whoever has worked with ASR in the initial phase, they might be aware of this tool, like the tool called Mover. This is completely for assessment purpose. It will discover and provide the assessment of our target environment, not our target, like how the target environment can be look like. So based on the information collected from source, it will provide the recommendation. Like if we have 4 CPU, 16 GB RAM, and whether those compute have been really utilized in on-premises. It might be used only 40% of the CPU and 20% of the memory. If that's the case, it will provide the recommendation. The Mover tool will provide the recommendation. What is the exact compute? You can use it in the target. That means in the Azure cloud. So this tool will provide that kind of information. It's very valid information. By using this one, we can do a lot of cost optimization in the Azure cloud environment. The next tool is Web App Migration Assistant. This is basically if we have any web-based applications running on IaaS servers in on-premises, I don't want to run those applications anymore with the on-premises servers. I want to move it to some web platforms in Azure. By using this service, we can move that complete code and deploy that application in Azure App Services. We can, as of now, we can deploy only the .NET and PHP web-based applications in Azure by using Azure App Service. Then next one is Azure Data Box. This one is only for moving the data from your on-premises to Azure environment. Like if we have more data which needs to be moved in the database, like if it is 1 TB, like 1 petabyte, 2 petabyte, that kind of data which cannot be moved across the network, right? That time we can use this Azure Data Box and we can move that data to Azure Data Center. So that's possible by using this tool. What are the tools we have discussed so far? These tools are coming together with this Azure Migrate service. So on today's sessions, we are going to talk about only the server-based migration, because the database migration, those things we'll discuss in the upcoming sessions. Today, we are going to talk about only the workloads. So these are all the stages when we are going to do the migration from on-premises to our Azure cloud. So these are all the stages. Like as per the tool, it's an initial assessment, and we have to do the setup, the infrastructure setup in Azure. Like a lot of people, we used to call it as a landing zone in Azure or in the target environment. Then how I am going to do the planning, the migration planning. Like if I have 50 servers in source, whether I'm going to do the 50 servers in a single shot or I am planning phase by phase, those things. Based on that, I have to create some policies also in the target environment. So those things, the third point. And enabling replication is based on the migration planning, right? I can enable the replication, add the servers and enable the replications. Then the fifth point is like do the migration. But in the fifth step itself, there are two parts. One is test migration, another one is the final migration. So as part of the test migration, we can migrate those servers to Azure Cloud and ensure it is accessible. The applications also are accessible, but everything will happen in the test network. We used to call it as a bubble network. So we can ensure that the servers, whatever we have replicated to Azure, it is powered on in Azure environment. So that kind of confirmation we can get it by using this test migration. After the test migration is successful, we can do the final cutover or the final migration of those servers. Then as usual, the post-migration steps like log into the servers and do the sanity test of our application services, application running state. Those things we can do the test as part of the post-migration steps. So as of now, whatever we have discussed, this is completely a flow. Now I'm going to show how the Azure Migrate service looks like in Azure Portal and what all things we need to do it. So those part I'm going to discuss now. So in Azure, if you navigate to Azure Portal, the valid subscription and valid permissions. Okay, like you should have at least contributor permission to create this Azure Migrate project. Else it will end up with some permission related issues when we are planning to do the migrations. So in Azure Portal, search for Azure Migrate service. So you will get this page. So in this page, select the discover and assess and migrate section, because since we are planning for servers, select that option. Once you selected, we'll get an option to create a project. So we need to create a project by selecting that option. This is the place. See, we should have the valid subscription and we should have the enough permission. That's what I said in the initial stage itself. If we don't have the proper permission to create the resources, right, we will not be able to create any of these services. So I am using pay-as-you-go subscription. So I have selected that one and I just created a resource group. See, we can create a resource group before coming to the step itself, and you can use that one by selecting the drop-down box. Else, you can create the new resource group by selecting create new option. And if we have to enter the details like what is my project, like in the production environment, right? If we are planning for a dev environment, you can put the appropriate name for dev environment project, as well as for the upcoming environments. So on the geography, which region I am planning to migrate, like people are working in different regions. So based on their geographical region, we have to select that location and create the project. And this public endpoint is how I am going to access my Azure Migrate. If I'm going to create a private endpoint, we should have some additional configuration to access the private endpoint. On the network side also, we need to work on that one. As of now, we have chosen public endpoint, and this will create a project by using these details. Once we have created a project, we'll come to this page. If you see within this Azure Migrate itself, we have discovery assessment, discover. The second option is analyze dependencies and assess. So all these things are part of this tool. It's a package. So we no need to worry about a separate discover and discovering analysis and assessment process. The next option is the migration. Because in the previous slide, right, here, when I'm selecting the discover, right, it will deploy one appliance. I'm going to share it the next document, how that appliance will get downloaded and how we are going to deploy it. For our case, I have chosen VMware environment as a source environment. So there will be a appliance will deployed in VMware environment. People might have a lot of questions on their mind, like how this will get the details from on-premises. By using this appliance only, it will get all this information. See, after here, I am selecting that option, like as I told now, I'm going to discover this environment by using these options, like yes, with VMware vSphere hypervisor and with Hyper-V, whatever environment we are planning. So based on that, we have to choose that option. In my case, I am choosing VMware vSphere hypervisor. So the interesting part over here is the second option. You might see how do you want to replicate using agentless replication, and the second option would be like using agent replication. Like the difference between agentless and agent is quite different. Agentless means there will be no agent or services will be installed on your servers which you are planning to migrate. However, it's not the case for the agent based. When you are choosing that agent based, right, that time the agents will get, the agent name is called mobility service agent. That agent will get installed in each and every server which we are planning to migrate. You can note on the point over here is like in the previous slide I have shown, seen this slide, the physical server, if you have the physical or other infrastructure, right? In this case, we cannot just use the agentless based migration. We have to use the agent based migration because by using that agent, the agent will get installed on the physical environment. Based on that, it will discover on this Azure Migrate. So this is the only difference I would like to highlight on this option. And select the appliance type, like add a new Azure Migrate appliance. There will be another option like choose the existing appliance. In my case, I don't have any new the existing migrate appliance. I am using the new. I am going to create a new migrate appliance. That means I'm going to deploy one in my environment, in my source environment. So if we select that add a new Azure Migrate appliance, we'll get this option. If you see here, right, the generate project key, name your appliance. see whatever you are going to give, that will by default it will go and generate a key with the name of the appliance. And when we are going to do the registration, automatically Azure will understand, okay, this is the appliance getting deployed in the source environment. And by entering some VMware credentials, it will register that VMware environment. So these are the steps. Like I need to give the appliance name and I will get the key. And then I need to download this OVA, like the OVA file, I need to download it. This is a very lengthy process. Based on your internet, it will take time. At least in my environment, I have seen it was taking at least 2 hours to download, 2 to 3 hours. It was taking. Once this is done, right, if you see the set of the appliance, so this is the minimum requirement. Like this appliance will come up with built in 2016 with, if I'm not wrong, it will have 180 days operating system license by default. The single Azure Migrate appliance will work for 180 days. And we should have 32 GB memory and 8 vCPUs. See, these compute, right? This is supposed to be in our on-premises where I am planning to deploy this appliance. This appliance will get deployed in our source environment. So our source VMware environment should have enough compute to support this hardware requirement to deploy this appliance. Once this appliance setup is completed, we need to register that one and start doing the discovery. I have downloaded that in this screen. I have downloaded the OVA file. I am deploying that OVA file by using deploy OVA template in my VMware environment by selecting that file. And let me take you through the steps. Once that OVA template is like as per this screenshot, once I have uploaded and powered on that machine, automatically the OS will get deployed and the new virtual machine will get deployed in the on-premises VMware environment. And then once that VM is powered on, right, we need to log into that server. Okay, once we log into that server, in a desktop, we'll have icon. If you can select that icon, automatically this page will get opened with this port number. So here onwards, we need to start updating the information, like how I am going to register, and here only that VMware permissions, those things will come into picture. So till this point, there is no dependency with the VMware environment, but from here we have the dependency with our VMware environment. So I have logged into that server and I have selected that icon. Once the icon is opening with the Internet Explorer page, Microsoft Azure Appliance and Configuration Manager. So this page will come. We need to accept the license, and the beauty part is this appliance should have the internet connectivity, because we are planning for the migration between our on-premises and Azure environment. So this appliance, not your whole VMware environment, only for this appliance, we should enable the internet access, and it should the time sync should be there. If the time sync is not there, then we'll end up with some warning message. So we need to correct the time sync. Once all these actions are completed, select continue. And here we need to register with Azure Migrate. I am going to specify my vCenter IP name, IP or the name, and with the port number 443. And normally in the production environment will not get the administrator access. So the equivalent access, when I'm saying the equivalent access, like at least you should have the read permission with creating of VMs. So that kind of permissions we should have. So in the complex environment, due to the security reason, we will not get the access to the administrator IDs. So we have to create one new ID for this migration purpose. So we can use that ID, and that ID should have the enough permissions in vCenter. So enter that details and validate the connection. So if we have done that one, this Azure Migrate will connected with the vCenter. So once that vCenter connection is completed, it will automatically discover all the machines in the vCenter environment. Like if you have how many data centers you have in your vCenter, and how many clusters you have, how many hosts, how many servers, everything it will discover. But in our case, right, we are going to migrate the Windows or Linux based servers. So it will list down the appropriate candidate. So it will discover the servers. In my environment, I had 19 servers. So once this discovery is completed, I have seen in Azure Migrate, in server migration, like the discover servers, how many servers in my environment I have, it will show the total number of servers. In that, at this moment, I have not initiated any other application. So everything is showing as 0. Initially, I told test migrated servers and migrated servers. The test migrated servers is for confirming our test. So test migrated is the pre-migration stage. So here also, if you want to test this one, we can do that. If not, you can skip this step and do the final migration if you have the confidence. Like in the Azure Migrate servers, I am selecting the triplicate option. Now I need to select the source settings. Again, the same exercise, like where is my machines? It's in VMware environment, and where I'm going to migrate. So already I have the appliance in on-premises environment, choosing that appliance. And this option, right, virtual machines, I will specify the migration settings manually. What does that mean? Like import migration things from an assessment. Initially, I told for each and every server, it will do the discover and assessment, right? How many CPU memory and whether it is required or not, all those things, it will provide the details, right? Based on that, are you going to keep the same recommendation? Are you going to keep the same as source? One point we need to consider over here is we may not get the same as source environment. Like if we have 1 CPU and 3 GB RAM, the same configuration we may not get in Azure. The relevant, the almost equivalent configuration only will get in any of the public cloud environment. It can be Azure or AWS. So you cannot match the same configuration. Not for all the configuration. Some of the configurations you might not be able to match. So that's the main reason I mentioned that I will specify the migration settings manually. So as the 19 machines, right? These are all the list of 19 machines which I have. In that, I will choose which migration, which server I am going to migrate. So select that server, and then I have to select the size. See, if you see this one, like I will just zoom in. Source VM size is this one. Okay, like 8 cores and 16 GB RAM was there. Whether I'm going to use that same thing. Based on my recommendation, I'm just choosing this hardware class, standard D2V2. That means it is going to have 2 cores and 7 GB RAM. See how many cores we are avoiding from here? 6 cores and 9 GB of RAM we are avoiding from the source environment. So we are going to save that money in cloud environment. And then I am going to choose a SSD hard disk. There are 2 types of SSD. One is standard and another one is premium. In my case, I have chosen standard. For premium, if you have chosen premium, it will be like quite costlier than the standard SSD, but the IOPS value will be definitely increased comparing to standard SSD. So once I have selected all these options, I will choose an option called replicate. Once I have selected that option replicate, after selecting that server, now it is showing us replicating one server. Whatever server I have selected and initiating the replication, it will show the how many servers I am replicating. And then I can able to see the progress for each server. If I have selected multiple servers, it will show multiple servers in that window. And unfortunately, I just put the reverse order. So it is not showing. This is the name of the server and this is the status initial string. And this is the replication health status and how much percentage it been completed and whether the test migration is initiated, never performed. This migration, how it will happen is the first time when it is taking, right, it will take the complete snapshot of your on-premises server. It will take the complete snapshot. From there onwards, it will take a delta sync, like in source environment, if we have added another 1 GB of RAM after a replication is started, right? Like earlier it was having 10 GB of data. Now you have added 1 more GB in 1 more GB of data in source environment. That 1 more GB data only, it will get added as part of delta sync. So once this complete, the replication is showing as complete and delta sync also is complete, everything, then we are planning for the test migration. See here itself, it will show migration phase, test migration pending. So I can directly initiate the test migration. Once the test migration is enabled, right, the server name, whatever we have, that server will come up with the name called -test in the target environment, in Azure environment. See here, the server name is 72D, but when I am initiating test migration, the server name will become like 72D-test. So this is the default behavior when we are doing the test migration. So in this test migration, once this test migration is completed, right, you can log into that server and test whether you can able to access the server and application is accessible. Once that is done, we can clean up the test migration. I don't want to waste my Azure resource, so I can clean up the test migration, whatever I have done it. So in the same server, just in the last, you will get 3 dots, right? Selecting that one, clean up test migration option. You just select that so that whatever test migration is enabled, it will go off. And the last option, the last stage is like migrating the server. It's a final migration. Enable it. Actually, see, this is the one. Shut down virtual machine and perform planned migration with more data loss. What does that mean? Means in source environment, I don't want to keep that server online. So if we enable this option, automatically your appliance will send a signal to your source VM and it will power off that VM and it will start doing the delta sync if anything is there. Else it will do the migration. So once this migration, it will show the percentage and see, shut down the source virtual machine. This one is the for source environment machine, and it will show the status, whether it is successful or in progress or pending. All these things it will show. Once it is completed, we can able to see that server in our Azure environment. And we can log into that server and do the sanity test. So this is for Azure Migrate. Okay. The next tool is sir. Okay. See now the difference. Okay, I will just give a one word. ASR before Azure Migrate comes initiated by Azure. ASR was the service which a lot of people used for migrating their workloads from on-premises to Azure environment. See, this ASR, Azure Site Recovery, is not only for migrating your workloads to from on-premises to Azure environment. it will be a DR solution. Like if you want to run your on-premises as well, and you want to enable the DR site, right? You don't want to spend more money to set up a DR location in the physical data center. We can provide a solution to the customer, and we can move those services to Azure by using Azure Site Recovery. Like those services will be in Azure, and it will be like in the passive environment. It's not in active. Like based on our DR solution, we can select that option. Like I want to keep it actively or passively. So that option we can discuss with the customer, and we can set up it. But earlier, before Azure Migrate, we were using these services only for migrating the services. And this slide is talking about that one only, like how this Azure Site Recovery service is used and what is the benefit it is going to give. See, again, in the Azure Migrate, we told, right, like between Azure regions and on-premises VMware environment, the same thing, like on-prem VMs, Azure Stack VMs, and physical servers. By using ASR, we can migrate those things to Azure. And again, the same thing, but instead of Azure Migrate, we'll be using a service called Recovery Services Vault. This is a container, I could say. In this container, we'll move all our servers during the replication. And it will stay over here till we are completing the migration and moving those servers into production. So instead of Azure Migrate, we have to go to backup and site recovery option in Azure and select create recovery services vault. Again, we need to give the same details like a subscription resource group. There it's a project name, here it's a vault name, and region. There it was geography, and here it is region. So we need to enter all those details. Once that is done, right, we need to create a VNet. I have talked about the landing zone, right? The landing zone is nothing but based on your source environment, we should create a network, like how many subnets, and each subnet, whether what kind of routing tables I need to add. Those are all the information I have to collect from the on-premises environment. Based on that, I need to define my target virtual network in Azure. Those things I have mentioned on this slide. Once this is done, right, in VMware environment, like in the previous Azure Migrate, whatever we have done, right, the same thing. We should have one account to create the appliance, and on top of that, we should have one account to install the mobility service agent on the Windows servers. And for Linux servers, that option could be different. Like we have to get some root equivalent ID to install those agents on the Linux servers. So these things are required in the on-premises environment. And if you see the note for Windows servers, right, there should not be any pending patches. Like in Windows Update, all the pending patches should be 0. If any pending patches are there, right, you will not be able to bring that server, the particular server in on-premise in Azure environment, unless or until we install that particular patch. So that's the dependency we have when we are using Azure, the ASR. So I will take you through another document. Okay, the same thing. I need to create the OVA template, right? The same OVA template here also will be getting based on your Hyper-V or VMware environment. I have to give that server name, and this is a subscription, and the same setup, like whether how I am going to install this server, install this appliance. See, once that server is online, right? Once that server is coming online in the VMware environment, this is the link I was talking about, Microsoft Azure Site Recovery Configuration Manager. Once you select this option, we'll get all these details. Like I need to select the network. If I want to add the additional network card, see, this part is for having a separate network card for initiating the network traffic. Again, everything like whatever I have created, the recovery services vault and resource group, all those details I have to put it over here. And then the registering with my vCenter, I have to add that vCenter name and complete that registration process. See, like in this section, you might see the option called configuration server, right? We should have some understanding when we are going to use ASR. Like there are two processes involved. One is configuration, another one is process. The configuration server, whatever we are talking about configuration server, this is the main service which is used for coordinating the communication between our on-premises and Azure. Basically, it is managing the replication, this configuration server. Within the configuration server itself, we have a, another service called process server. That service will act as a replication gateway. And what that process server will do is, it will optimize the replication and it will compress the data, whatever it is collecting from your source environment or your source server. It will compress that and encrypt the data and send to Azure environment. So the encryption is the data transfer is encrypted in transit as well as in rest. So we cannot manipulate any data before you are moving that data from on source to on-premises, to the Azure cloud environment. Here again, I have to select the storage accounts and the replication policy. Like when I'm talking about replication policy, right? This policy is going to talk about RPO and RTO, like how many times, what is the time limit for RPO and what is the time limit for RTO, and how many app consistency I should have. Those details I'll be creating in the replication policy. So after creating this replication policy, I'll be selecting the server, like the same thing what we have done it, right? Select the server and do the initiate replication. When we are going to do the initial replication, right, what it will do is it will try to install the mobility service agent on your source server. If the agent is not getting installed, it's our responsibility to make that agent is installed on the source server. If it is not getting installed, we will not be able to enable the replication. See, if you see this screenshot, I have enabled the application. I have enabled the replication for one of the server. It is checking whether there is no pending reboot and installing mobility service agent. It will install that agent. If the agent installation is successful, then only it will go for enable replication. If not, it will not be. And hot add is supported by ASR. When I'm saying hot add means in source, currently you have 2 disks and I have enabled the replication for that server. All of a sudden, customer wants to add one more disk to that server. So no need to worry. The whatever disk is added into the server, right? It will be analyzed or identified in this Azure environment, and then it will start taking the data also. But if you remove any disk, right, that will not be possible in Azure. If you want to do the changes also, you have to cancel this replication and then enable the replication for the same server again. So based on your data, it will take the appropriate time. Once I enable the replication, if all these steps are completed, then only it will come and show the list, like how many percentage is completed. And it will show failover health, whether it is healthy or not healthy. So based on that, we can enable the failover. And here also I will have an option for test migration and final migration. And we can do the same task like Azure Migrate, whatever we have discussed. And as I told in the beginning of the session, there are only one difference. Both Azure Migrate and 𝐴𝐿 is doing the on-premises to cloud environment migrations. But the main difference between these two tools is 𝐴𝐿 will provide a DR solution. Azure Migrate will not provide. This is the only difference I could say. And by using this one, we can see what are all the options we'll get from Azure Migrate, like how we can do the integrated discovery assessment and how we can do the migration, those things. See, it is a one-way migration, like from source to target, that's it. There is no target to source option is available in Azure Migrate, but wherein Azure Site Recovery, right? If you see this diagram, like if you want to move it from on-premises to Azure, that is possible. And if you want to move back to your on-premises from Azure Cloud to your on-premises, that is possible by using the option called failback. When I'm saying failback, that time we are going to use a service called master target, which will be there within that configuration server, which we have deployed, right? And appliance, the configuration server appliance, right? By using that master target, it will do the replication from your Azure environment to the on-premises environment. So same thing, like one region to another region. So vice versa, it can be migrated and fail back. So this is the difference. It's a pictorial representation for both 𝐴𝐿 and Azure Migrate. And thanks everyone for listening to me. And yeah, I'm open for any queries.
Thanks, Tanara sir. So I'm just going to unmute everyone. You can ask one by one. So we will have a small chat over there. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. Go one by one. If you have any background noise, please be in mute.
Yeah, this is Saramana Kumar from Chennai. See, basically, you gave the demo for migration. So while we are setting up the appliances for the assessment, how we can arrive the target environment? What would be the right size we need to go at the Azure environment, and what would be the cost, and what is the compliances? So those details we need to get as a report, right?
Yeah, yes, Ron. Actually, as part of that assessment, right, it will provide a report. Okay, based on that report,
yeah, you have the report. See, basically, you gave the demo. See, it is a wonderful demo. I appreciate you. Before we go with the Azure Migrate, there are so many other steps we need to follow, right? First, we need to create the. We need to work with the landing zones using a CAF. Then after that, only we need to. We have to go with the decision tree, right?
Yep.
Once the decision trees come into the picture, then only we have to go with the assessment. Once the assessment done, then we need to decide whether we have to go with the rehost or re-engineering or remodification. Everything is there, right?
Can I explain this? Probably I can take over.
Yeah. Because see,
can you confirm you are able to see my whiteboard? Okay. See, to answer your question, so probably you can submit your question in the LinkedIn Tech Group. Probably I can explain in detail. The first thing what we can do is we have to size it. So especially on the appliance what you are putting in your on-premise to migrate. So this is going to be your our actual pathway server. So here our infrastructure will be there. So say for example the size, I already have a couple of templates. Probably I'll share it with you. So the size, if you take say you have a 50 servers, So 64 GB and there is a 32 core. So also you need to have minimum 4 terabyte the external disk. So apart from your normal OS, so what we can do is also you need to have the dedicated backend pipeline, then the network part dedicated. So using this, first we are deploying this appliance, and also we need to make sure it is connected to all these subnets wherever. If you have in single network, it's fine, but during the sizing, you need to also list down this capacity, how much capacity we are going to. This is the one way. The another way is we can export or convert this as a OVA image, and we can transfer it through this pipeline, and we have a lot of templates to import it. This is also one of the way. And when comes into the question, like what kind of a decision tree we have to take it, there is a 7R, right? Whether it is a rehost or a re-architect or a re-platform. So in that perspective, first of all, we need to ask another couple of questions is what exactly we have this mission. Say sometimes most of the clients now, they are trying to move to cloud, but they you need to group first. Say for example, I have 100
Oh,
servers.
that is okay in terms of cost and see why we are moving to the cloud in order to optimize or rationalize the
Yes.
costing, right?
Yes.
So if we straight away go to the rehost, it is not going to make any sense for the customer.
Yes,
right?
yes, that is a major people are thinking that rehost is a cloud migration. No, you are not doing any cloud native tools or anything. So the rehost means you are just taking this and hosting or started.
Correct.
It's kind of a platform from on-prem to there. That's it. But a rehost will not make your application as a cloud native perspective. So that also one of the recent video I created. But the rehost will give you some flexibility in the cloud platform.
Only the administrative
Yes,
hassles we can
we can get rid
get
of
rid
it.
of. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yes, but
So that is the reason.
But you need to think about your application. That is what I'm saying. If you take the last year migration, what I did, there was one of the
and also 𝐀𝐻𝐻 did not mention anything about the limitations of the assessment, right? So what service?
This session, it's not about sizing. That's what I'm saying. How to
No. I'm talking about the limitations, not the sizing.
the limitation part, it entirely depends on what infrastructure you have. So
there are some.
If you allow me for 5 minutes, so you need to first group the application. I mean the servers. Say I have a 50 servers. In that 50 servers, I have a legacy application in 10 servers. I have a some latest compatibility application in 20 servers. So this latest developed application can be supported in most of the tools. So I can even concentrate on this later. But this normally I would prefer to go with a rehost because it's a legacy application. So this is how first we need to group it, and then we need to think about how do we split it out as a microservices. So all these things will comes under planning, because before we talk about the migration, this planning has to have a more phase of time. I mean the project planning. So if you decide, okay, in some point, okay, no, I cannot split my application as a microservices, then you the straight away forward is rehost. If I think, okay, I can split it out my application as a microservices, then it's going to be a actual cloud native application where we can think of the other one, but that requires re-architect. This is where people are thinking, especially on the budget and the timelines, to move it to reduce their first administrative efforts. So if you have any such use case, you please share it with me. Probably I can help you. That's not an issue.
Yeah, I have a lot of use cases, not an issue.
Okay. Okay.
See, where we are missing here, first of all, when we talk about the Azure Migrate tool,
Yeah.